warm in here. It's not outside. So it's nice. It's freezing out there. All right, how you want to do this?
So you can just have a seat here.
Okay. Okay,
And
great.
then this will be your mic.
Okay.
There you go. Do you want it on the stand? Or?
Check, check. Yeah. I don't know if I need them. Oh, that's right. We're recording Facebook Live. Are we on right there? Hey, y'all.
Okay.
This is nice and small and intimate. Good.
Have you been?
Nice. Not in this studio.
You're
Downstairs.
Oh,
yeah.
downstairs, yeah.
Good.
About 30 seconds out.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming out on such a cold evening. My name is Sky McLeod. I'm the Associate Director of Media Education here at BRIC, and I just want to welcome you to our Media Talk series. This is a series where we invite professionals from the field to share their expertise and just give you an opportunity to ask questions related to radio hosting, and it's really exciting. It's a really exciting program that we have. And just to tell you a little bit about BRIC, BRIC is the leading presenter of free and low-cost cultural arts programming in Brooklyn and one of the largest in New York City. I'd like to introduce Raqiyah Mays. Raqiyah Mays comes from New York City's own WBLS 107.5 radio station. She is a journalist and has worked with Vibe, The Source, XXL magazines. She is also the author of a book that was just published called The Man Curse, which I'll let her tell you all about. So without further ado, I would like to hand it over to Raqiyah to talk a little bit about her experience. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm going to stand. I know I got these heels on, so you'll know that when my feet start to hurt. She'll be like, oh, she's sitting. Okay, there it is. Like you said, yeah, I'm an author, journalist, radio personality. How many of y'all listen to WBLS? Okay, I see people in the control room raising their hand. I do. Yes, I like that. Thank you. And, you know, last year made 20 years for me in the entertainment business. And I've done a lot of things, you know. I've done the acting, and I've done the writing, and I've done radio, and I wrote my novels, fiction novels, Simon & Schuster ebooks, The Man Curse. It's not about a man, because I see the guys like, what is that about? What is going on? But it's about a young woman who is working to break this curse that has prevented the women of her family from ever marrying. And so the question is she cursed, or is it all in her head? So it's about her journey and what she has to go through, and sometimes the self-fulfilling prophecies that we tend to have that prevent us from making our dreams come true, right? Sometimes it isn't about everyone else. It's about us. Isn't that right? So, you know, radio was my love growing up. I always wanted to, you know, actually, I shouldn't say I always wanted to be a radio personality. Radio was my escape. Radio was where, you know, I remember being a little kid and, you know, rebellious, and my mother was getting on my nerves, and I would run upstairs and I would turn on the radio. And it was only until some woman, she heard my voice, and I've always had sort of a deep voice, and I used to be embarrassed about it. And she was like, you should do radio. And I was just like, really? And it never dawned on me. And I grew up listening to Wendy Williams before she was a shock jock. Before she was the Wendy Williams she was today. She was on Kiss FM, and I would listen to her, and it would take me away. And I was the girl that called up, and I was the one that won tickets, and I was calling 98. That was me. But then I realized with radio, with being on and having the opportunity, particularly in college, that I enjoyed talking to people. I enjoyed giving information. That's why I wanted to do so. We call this 10 tips to being a radio DJ, right? A radio personality, a radio host. First tip I would say, and step number one, is you have to ask yourself, why do you want to do it? Why do you want to be a radio host? Why do you want to have a podcast? Why do you want to do it?
So I moved overseas a long time, about 12 years ago, and the way I was able to sort of stay in touch with the culture that I knew, the culture that I could converse in, was through radio, was through podcast, before the current craze. Like this, when it was still just This American Life and Radio Lab, and yeah, so just hearing those stories kind of were, a connection for me, and so I guess I'd like to maybe hopefully pass that on.
See that. So to connect with people, right? To make a difference. What about you? Do you want to be a radio personality? Is that why you're here? Why do you want to be a radio personality?
I have an organization called A Rebel Minded Society, and we provide platforms to music and film, and I felt like that it was necessary for us to get into this realm because I've noticed how much of a difference podcasts have made for me. Nowadays, I don't have much time to read, so I always look at podcasts for my source of information, and that helps me to get my information on the go. So I felt like I wanted to create something like that for our community.
Nice. So you have to ask yourself, because that is what will make the type of personality that you're going to be. Do you want to be a shock jock? Do you just want to just say whatever, and do you want to make people mad? Do you want to be a gossip journalist? Do you want to just provide the gossip of the day and the rumors? Do you want to be entertainment? Do you want to be the entertainment radio personality that, has a scoop on what's happening in Hollywood and what's happening in music? What about maybe it's politics? Maybe you want to talk about what's going on in this crazy world and what's happening in D.C., Are you going to represent the left? Are you going to represent the right? Are you pro-black? Are you the white nationalist? Who are you? Do you want to empower women? Do you want to empower your people? You can't do well in radio as a personality until you know who you are and who you want to be. And it's better to know it right away than to learn on the job, because it'll sound like it, right? In the early days, you're going to need to be your own producer. So the producer, of course, as we all know, and here's just a smart crowd, is, the one that organizes the show. They're going to organize. They're going to, why are you looking at him like, yeah. Oh, so he's your producer. Oh, okay. She was like, no, I'm the producer. All right. Well, then, that's funny that you said that, because that almost takes me to my tip number 2, right? Which is, well, first I'll say this. I'm, in a way, going to help you be the producer for your show. So this is where you'll see me. Yes, I'm giving this course and I'm instructing, but I'm your producer. So I'm going to help you organize these shows a little bit. The producer, and that's an important thing, is to find the right producer, particularly if you're going to be the producer. You want to be organized. How many of you have listened to a radio show or listened to a podcast that was all over the place? Raise your hands. That you didn't know what they were talking about, right? Who the host was. You had to actually look and press info like, who is that? That's if it was a podcast. If you're on air, you don't know. Why? Because they're talking. And you don't know what they're talking about. Why? Because some people, they just want to get on air because they want to hear who speak. Themselves. Right? So that's what a producer will do. Especially if you're your own producer. You're going to reel it in. You're going to reel it in. And you're going to stay focused. Right? So I guess that would be the tip number 2, is be a producer or get a great producer. Now, these two right here, they were arguing over who's a producer. Ooh, y'all might need to work that out real quick. Did you want to say something? Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like from traditional radio, it was more organized, like you're saying, and it should be that way. But I hear a lot of successful podcasts now where it seems like a lot of rambling. But do people like that? Like I listen, well, I'll say names. It don't matter. I listen to Tax Season a lot of times, and I like it, but some of it is a lot of rambling. But they get like a lot of followers, so it's rambling bad.
That's a great question about the rambling. Just because it's rambling doesn't mean it's a good show, right? There are shows that aren't good that have a lot of followers because they are hella promoters. They promote really well, and they have a great following. And just for time's sake, because we only do have an hour here, particularly with Facebook Live, we're going to hold questions until the end. So please just write down those questions because I will make a point to answer each and every one of them, okay? Because that's what we're here for, right? Number 3, what do you want to talk about, right? And it's a little bit deeper than that. And we were talking about rambling, right? If there's one thing that I learned in radio that I really work to stick to, it's one topic, one thought per break. So literally thinking about what you're going to say when you crack that mic and what the topic is and sticking to it, right? You don't want to talk about, you're going to get on and say, hey, I'm such and such, I'm here. And, yeah, my dog, I love my dog. My dog is so great. You know what? And then I went Christmas shopping and it was great. It was so crazy to shop. It's cold. It's cold outside. What is going on? It's cold. Don't ramble. So y'all laughing, but I'm serious. One thought per break. And sometimes, we will have ADD. We will have ADD. We will get on and we will talk about 1,000,001 things. So we have to be focused and we have to be. Why? Because the listener actually has ADD. There are so many competitors and there are so many things going on out there that you have a limited amount of time to actually keep your audience. Of course, you're going to have your loyal audience and you'll have your loyal people that are like, I'm going to listen to you. There's always going to be that mama listening. She's always going to listen to your entire show. But then you're going to have those people that are like, what is going on? And they're going to filter you out. And you know what? They're going to turn the station or they're going to go right to the next show. So one topic, one thought per break. My screen went out here. Is it just you or are you part of a crew? This is all part of what you want to talk about. Are you the star of the show? Do you have hosts? And if you have hosts, is it just your friends from around the way? And that could be okay. But are there opposing views? Everyone has to have their role, right? You listen to a morning show. Everybody's got their role. They've got the comedian. They might have the person that just says whatever, that just talks junk. They might have the one that gives the news, their news reporter, entertainment reporter, or their expert that brings it back with the facts and says, well, according to the New York Times, right? And when you have this crew and when you have these co-hosts, the main thing that you want to make sure that everyone does, you don't want to just crack the mic and get on air and say, oh, these are my friends. Make sure you get along. Test it out. Because familiarity breeds resentment. Ooh, people will get on your nerves, right? So you have to make sure that you can persevere through that. Because you want your show to be amazing. You all want, it's like a little family. You want to do the best that you can. You're going to be spending a lot of time with these people. So when you think about the type of radio show, when you think of who you want to be on your radio show, maybe go out and have a drink. Maybe go out and eat and break bread and talk and see if you vibe and see if it'll feel good. You'll feel the energy of it. And you'll know and you'll say, wow, try a few people out. But it has to be designated who the anchor is. The anchor is the person that reels it all in. Because you're going to have certain people on your show and they might not be radio people. They may come from a completely different industry. So you'll have to actually be the person, the anchor is the one that might throw out the topic of the day, might put in their 2 cents, but literally they're throwing it out so that everyone else, they know that they're going to get some good feedback on it, that the comedian's going to say something funny, you know, that the woman's going to say something for, you know, being a womanist. You know, you're going to have the black power person. You're going to have the person that's the complete, you know, conservative that you're like, what are they talking about? But that's what makes the show. And then the anchor is working with the producer, looking at the time and saying, well, this is getting kind of long. Let's bring it back in. And that's what the anchor does. And they organize it. And that's how you're organizing your actual show. Another part of that, and this is all about keeping it concise, one topic per break. The various tones of the show are what actually make the show. So you want to make sure everyone may not always need to be on the same page, but everyone needs to know exactly where you're going. So it's important that with your producer, or maybe you are the producer that yourself, that you have it all organized and everyone knows that you don't throw anything out there. I find myself, I was bouncing around and I listen to different podcasts, and I find myself, I don't listen to a lot of them that long because it's everywhere, all over the place. So I'm like, oh, this is interesting, but I don't know what they're talking about. Next, then I'll go to another one, you know. One of my favorite podcasts, I like Combat Jack. I like him because he's focused and he's concise and he has something to say, and he reels it in, and he's got really interesting interviews and interesting guests, you know. I like that kind of stuff. But I also like news, and I like to hear a lot of news and different things that are going on. So I'm the type of person, if it's not on the radio or it's on TV, I'm bouncing around a lot because I just want to hear a little bit of things. So you have to think about that. So you got to come powerful and come strong, become organized. One thought per break. Unified unit. 4. Was that a snap? Oh, no, that's the cameraman. Number 4, energy. You want to set the tone. So it depends on the type of radio. Who here is interested in the type of radio that I do, terrestrial radio? Anybody want to raise their hand? One guy, just 2 people. Ooh, this is bad for radio. Ooh, FM radio is in trouble. Nobody wants to be on the box anymore. It's pretty bad. How many of y'all are here to do podcasts? Wow. This guy's like, how you get on terrestrial radio? I can't even get on that. So I'm just starting my own radio show because, y'all, I don't even know how to get on there. I understand. Be on, and we'll talk about that. Be an entrepreneur. Okay, so this is the podcast, and that's easy. So a lot of y'all want to do this, obviously, because all you gotta have to do is buy your own material, and then you could just have your own radio show. You don't need anyone to say, sure, you could be on. I hear you. Okay. All right. So here's the thing, and the podcast world, it almost seems like that you can talk as long as you want. I would say less is more. From my world and from the FM and terrestrial radio world, it depends on the type of show. You'll hear certain DJs, they may only talk for 30 seconds. They may not seem a lot, but you can say a lot in 30 seconds. 60 seconds. A lot of program directors will say no more than 60 seconds. Some might work with you and give you a little bit more. For morning shows, a lot of them, sometimes it's 2 minutes. Can you imagine having to say something in 2 minutes? If you got 3 other co-hosts, it's an ongoing struggle between radio personalities and the programmers. The fight is, well, people are here for the music. The radio personality is like, they're here to hear me talk. Which is it? Maybe it's a little bit of both. But then when you have ratings and ratings come in and they have different types of rating systems and the people meter, the people meter, and all of these different types of things where they're actually measuring the frequency and based off the music, then they'll say, well, it's about the music. This is Christmas time. People want to hear Christmas music. That makes the ratings go up. So stop talking so much. Right? With the podcast, what research has shown is for some, and this is not for all podcasts, the shorter the podcast, the better. The podcasts that are shorter are doing a lot better. Like, even I told you, like, I realized that a lot of podcasts, I was listening for 10 minutes and then I'm on to the next. Now, is that because of me and what I'm thinking and my listening span? Or is it because they're rambling? You know? Combat Jack, I listen. Why? Because a lot of those podcasts, he'll just jump right into the interview. Because they know that's what people are here for. Oh, the locks. Oh, yeah. You know? Oh, they got XYZ, some celebrity. Which is why it's even more important that when you start your show, you want to set your tone for the show. The most immediate way, your first break, to reel people in and keep people is to tell them what to expect. Some people will stay because they know you're going to talk about certain things. You've got certain people or topics or interviews coming up. Let them know. Let them know what's coming on, right? It doesn't have to be safe because they may not stay with you. So give them a reason to stay. Set the tone. I think I have part of my air check. Can we go to that? I only want to play the first part of it because it's weird listening to yourself. Can they hear that?
Right now.
Thank you, Jodeci. Thank you. Thank you very much. 107.5 WBLS Raqiyah here. Love Jones weekend. Love Jones tickets coming up. And good music like this Al Green. It's WBLS. Yeah, 107.5 WBLS Raqiyah Mays here. And, you know, I had the pleasure of seeing an amazing film the other night at the Urban World Film Festival. It's in New York this weekend. And they opened the festival with Disney's Queen of Catway. It was so cute. It's a really nice film about a girl. She's from the slums of Africa, and she inspires herself and her entire nation and her family by learning to play chess. It was beautiful. It's one of these films where you need to take your children. We need to see and support. It's really good. It's starring Lupita Nyong'o and David Oyelowo. He's the brother who played Martin Luther King in Selma. Yup, really good. It's out this weekend, which of course is also a Love Jones weekend, and these tickets are free. Starring Music Soul Child, Chrisette Michelle, Marsha Ambrosius, Raheem Devon, MC Line, and Dave Hollister. I got 2 tickets for you for caller 107 212 545-1075. Get on those phones. I got them. Good luck. All right, you can bring that down.
Center in Manhattan.
What did y'all hear with that? Info. Oh, you like my voice? Thank you very much. I'm a radio personality. Woo! I speak on the radio. One thought per break. Keep it short. Keep it sweet. Get to the point. Right? Now it's just me, and that's a different type of format because I want the music to keep going on, and that's what I'm doing. Right? If I was with, say, a morning show, it would definitely be a different feel to it. You know, I think I actually like being on air by myself, but you know, I've been with shows, you know, maybe, I don't know. It depends. The energy. So that's what number 4 was. Your energy should be high. You want high energy. You know, people feel that, you know, even if you're talking about politics, come in there. I watch it all. You know, I'm very progressive, but I will watch Fox News. I've done that. Fox News, and you'll have somebody say like a Sean Hannity, his energy is up here. He's passionate. Even if you don't agree with anything that he's talking about, he is so passionate about it, and he pulls it in, and that's why he's got a top-rated show, right? MSNBC, you talk to Joyanne Reid, she is passionate about what she's talking about, and she gets right to the point, and she brings it in, right? Make sure your energy is tight. Make sure your energy is high, even if you have to fake it. Radio is cinema of the mind. Paint that picture for them. No one needs to know that you were out drinking the night before. No. You could talk about it, but it doesn't need to sound like it because that's boring. And people are going to change the channel or they're going to go somewhere else. All right. So watch that energy. Number 5. I'm sorry, we're on number 6. Keep a clock in front of you so that you could keep track of how long that you're speaking. this sort of comes into having a producer. But if you are your own producer, find something. It could be as small as a phone, but it lets you know that how long you're actually speaking. So in the WBLS studio, I'm always looking at the clock. I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, okay, 6:23. We on step number 6. All right. Okay, we only have an hour. So you absolutely want to do that because you want to make sure you want to say, and if you realize that you're talking too long, or or you're looking at your time and you're like, wow, this podcast is only supposed to be an hour and I haven't gotten through to what I need to talk about, then you need to push it along. Your clock allows you to stay on time. It allows you to further keep your show organized as well. Keep a clock in front of you. It's important. The only way that you can actually keep your show organized, particularly with a clock and one thought per break, is the number 7. You want to write it out. When I came here, Jessica, she in the control room, Jessica Mason, there she is, she's raising her hand. She gave me a whole rundown of the show. This is going to happen in this time, and then this guy's going to introduce you and blah, blah, blah. You're going to take the stage 5:55, 6 o'clock, da-da-da-da. That's TV, right? But that is how she said it. She was speaking all fast. I was like, okay. She was on it. She was passionate. I like, hey, Jessica, I like her. You want to write it out. Write out your show. It's something that I do. I still do it. I literally, and not every personality does this. I write out the times of when I'm going to speak. I'll bring on my little laptop. I have, even when I organize, what I'm going to say during that break. A lot of radio personalities will come in, though, before their shift, they'll come in early. Some people come in like an hour early to organize their show. Because there's so much going on when you're on air, with the phones ringing and people coming in and out of the studio and people texting you. That's when everybody wants to text you as soon as you're on air. Hey, I'm listening to you. Hey, why are you not texting me back? Because I'm on the radio. What? So there's a lot of stimuli, so you want to make sure that it's organized. So if you have a run of your show, it keeps you in your head organized. And make sure that you've done your research so you know exactly where you're going, exactly what you're going to do. I even will go as far when I'm writing it down as I have a little script. It's almost like my form of like a teleprompter. And the only reason that I have a little script and I'll write down some of my breaks is because growing up, I used to stutter. And when I realized the stuttering came because I had all these ideas in my head and they were all coming to me at the same time. I was like, and all I remember is my mother saying, take your time, slow down, one thought. She didn't say that. I just made that up. But I use that. So I literally, what I've learned in radio, it's 10 seconds per line. One sentence is 10 seconds. So if I'm writing down, and sometimes I don't always stick to my script, it's just a guide for me to know exactly what I'm going to say. It's better for me. It stops me from stuttering. It keeps me out of trouble from saying the wrong thing, because I've done that a few times in my career. I don't want to do that again, because sometimes things just come out. And you're like, ooh, foot and mouth disease. Why did I say that? But if you plan and you write it down and you have your little script and your guide there, no problems. If you're writing it down, and I know particularly if I'm on air and I'm like, okay, I can't talk that long. And I see my music and what's coming, and I see I've got a bed at the end of a song because the song is ending, and a bed from the beginning of a song, and all together that's about 30 seconds, 40 seconds, and I have this little script written out, and it's about 6 lines. I don't have 60 seconds to speak. So I need to cut it down. Sometimes you'll see me doing that. I do these types of things because I just want to stay organized and I want to stay tight. Because if I mess up, the entire city stops. Millions of people are going, ooh, she sucks. I don't want to be that person. And I don't want to lose. And it's in that moment that you mess up, or you have dead air, or you seem unorganized, or you're all over the place, that they change the station, that they go to another show. So write it down, type it up, whatever you have to do. Be prepared. If you really want to take this seriously, preparation is everything. And sometimes you only have one chance. You never know, that might be your last time on air. This is the business. You know how it goes, right? You never know, particularly with your podcast, know that you have more control of it. You just never know. That could be the last show that you do, and next thing you know, everybody talks bad about you, and you're out of business. So make it your best and give it your all, and respect yourself by writing it down and doing the research and preparing your show that needs to be done. Does that make sense? Just got this new tablet. Not a fan of it. Slow. So that's step number 7. That's step number 7. And step number 8, which is do your research. Do your research. Know your topic. There's this thing now, it's called the fake news. They're like, oh, that didn't happen. So people like to retweet things on Twitter, and they haven't actually clicked on and read the story. They're just reading the headlines. Or it's some news site, and particularly for me as a journalist, I'm all about, the sources. Where did this come from? Is this from a major source? Is this from, say the New York Times, or is this from the Washington Post? Because I know they have a million fact checkers because they can't afford to be sued. Or is this just from some bootleg site that's just happy to put something up? Particularly in the age of digital media where people aren't actually researching their facts and checking things. It's now your responsibility, whether you're on FM radio or AM radio or it's a podcast, you have decided that you're a journalist. That's broadcast journalism. That's what you're doing. So if you're taking that responsibility, then do your research. Make sure the information that you're providing is valid. You'll know that it's valid. You'll know it's factual because you should be able to find 3 different places, 3 different sources. That's the rule in journalism, saying the same thing and has the same fact. If you can't, you might want to question it. 3 different sources. So do your research. If it seems like people here, the ones that I talk to, this young lady here and this guy right here, they want to provide information. So if you're going to provide something and you're actually going to help the people, make sure it's right. Right? Unless that's the type of show, unless you're doing a conspiracy theory show. I mean, listen, there's an angle for that as well, But you want to make sure it's factual. You want to make sure that it's 100%. Because best believe the people that are listening to you, particularly if you can take calls or if you don't take calls and you're online and people are emailing you, they will call you out. And they will let you know, and it's going to be your responsibility to talk to them. I mean, you can ignore them. You can say, whatever. But things that are online, they live forever. So those comments are there. So be prepared to talk to your people and answer your people. But do it because you know that you're coming from, that you've done your research, you've actually done the right thing, and that what you're providing is honest and it's factual. Number 9. Talking about the audience. Interact with the audience. There are some radio personalities. I won't say any names, but they'll do it every now and then. They don't really like to interact with their audience. You have to, if you're broadcasting and you're providing, you need to talk to your people. So when I say interact with your people, whether it's taking calls or whether if people are actually replying and talking about your show and you have comments, talk to them. Reply to them. Let them know that you're accessible, that you're not just somebody that's behind a microphone hiding. If they can't see you, at least let them hear you through the words. That's all part of being a radio host. That's all part of it. You're dealing with the public. So do it. Go out there and talk to them. It also helps you as a personality and as a host. It helps with your creativity. It helps you come up with topics. It helps you really see what the people actually want from you. So talk to them. Get to know them. Reply to those comments. Part of radio and interacting with the audience, a huge part of it is promoting yourself. You were saying here how, you were like, oh, the shows, they're not that good and they're all over the place, but they've got all these listeners. They promote themselves. Of course, there's posting to your pages. Of course, there's using your particular guests and making sure that they're actually posting to their pages and that they're actually retweeting, taking pictures so that they can share it in other places. Maybe creating events surrounded around your particular show that helps you actually promote your show. Maybe it's a community event. I don't know what it is. But part of that, and if you're working to gain listeners, is you have to get out there. And a lot of times they want to see you because when you get on that microphone, there's a certain part of the audience and the public, they're going to be like, oh, you're a celebrity. Now you're a local celebrity. So go out there and maybe create an event, something that helps brand your show, brand you as a host, brand your entire crew. Could be a party, could be a networking event, something. Create the flyer, the digital flyer, put it on your page and get out there. It can only help you. That's all it can do. Get your little pad and take some emails. Like my intern, Nicole, is handing out this pad and collecting some emails. Thank you very much. Could you do that? Thank you. Just had to call her out real quick. All right. So get emails. Get to know your people. Get to know your audience. It would surprise you of who your audience is sometimes. You're like, wow, is that who listens to my show? You need to know because it helps you. It's like knowing your analytics when you're online and knowing how many people. A lot of people have websites and they don't even check their analytics. They don't know who's listening or where they're coming from or what part of the world. How are you supposed to better yourself and have a great show and know who is listening to your show if you're not even checking it? You're not even out there. You're not even checking your analytics. That's a form of interaction. You have to know these things. And there are a lot of free places you can go. Sometimes you have to pay a little bit of money for these things. But it's important. It can only help you. It can only help you go a lot further. You want to, of course, screen your calls if you take phone calls. Every now and then you will get the crazy caller. Don't go blind, please. Don't just, oh, we have a call. They're like, yeah, I hate you. You don't want that. You don't want that call. So bringing somebody that hopefully can help you, maybe like an intern or maybe somebody like that who, would be happy to be able to put this on their resume that can answer the calls. You want to screen your comments online, right? People will post anything and you have to create boundaries. You have to be in control. So you have to monitor in real time. Particularly, say, you might put your show on and it might not be live. Say it's a podcast. When you put that podcast up, you need to have somebody or yourself monitoring what people are saying. So you might need to reply. You might need to stop the comment. You might need to shut it down, particularly in this age and time. If you ever read the comments of certain pages, it gets real racial sometimes, doesn't it? It's disturbing actually. So you have to watch these things. I think a lot of companies have learned the wrong way where they weren't monitoring the comments. And then they had to go back and they had to release statements and all these different types of things. Don't be that person. Be proactive and monitor. And it's also a way of interacting and knowing who's actually listening to your show and what they're actually saying and how you can get better or how you might actually be able to add some things. It's important. Control your show. Create events. Number 10 is, I should have, Jessica, I'm talking to Jessica in the control room, giving you all the Denzel Washington comment about telling the truth. How many of you did you see that? Where Denzel, he was on Twitter. Do you remember what he said? What did he say here?
I don't remember specifically, but pretty much he was saying that unlike you guys, you have to be real and tell the truth, and like it's enough of the BS. Like let's be clear and like this is what really is going on, and let's be real.
Right. He was on the red carpet of Fences, and a young journalist had asked him about what was happening in the world and what he thought, and he started talking about journalism, and he started saying you have to read the paper, you have to read everything, you have to read what's out there, you have to know what's going on. But then he started speaking to journalists, and he started saying you have to tell the truth. Tell the truth. What kind of journalist are you going to be? Particularly in this day and time. We're in a time where people want authenticity. People want honesty. There are so many people lying to us. So we're all watching what's going on politically right now. Like, what? Did Russia steal the election? What? Did Trump steal? What is going on? Did he lie? Right? So people are waking up in their own way because of the dishonesty, because of the lies. So it becomes your responsibility as someone that actually wants to speak to the audience, to give the audience the truth. Tell them, be honest. Even if it's your honesty, and even if it's the honesty that everyone might not agree with, people can tell when they listen to you if you're lying or not. You can feel it. You can tell. How many of you have turned on the radio or listened to a podcast and you've listened to someone speaking, you were like, they are not telling the truth. It aggravates you, right? It's completely aggravating. You're like, what? It's phony. What were you going to say? You'll turn it off right away. Right? Oh, he said he's giving you a mic here.
Well, you could tell when they're lying because their words are all mixed up and nothing is really accurate.
Right.
It's a turnoff.
Right. And this guy back here was saying?
Yeah, no, I just tend to notice, especially like in the celebrity, I guess, world. Like, it seems like sometimes they'll just do a show and just kind of think they could do it just based on their name, and you could just tell that they really just don't have the vibe to be on radio. But because they have a name established, obviously already, they're gonna have an easier time getting some listeners out there.
Right.
So you kind of see that like a mile away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's inauthentic. So that's in very few people. I was telling my intern Nicole, I was like, well, Denzel, he actually studied journalism, So all that passion, that's where that comes from. Particularly when you study it, you have a different way of looking at the world, For me, I'm a news junkie, so I'm always listening, I'm always looking, I'm always watching. I get a lot of my stuff from Twitter, because a lot of the news breaks online before it actually breaks on TV. But I'm looking for the truth. I'm constantly searching, constantly. So when you're on air, whether it's your podcast or whether it's your radio show, you want to bring the truth, because bring the truth is for, depending on the audience that you're speaking to, it's also keeping it positive, right? There's so much negativity in the world. So many lies and so much evil. When you are honest and you really speak from a place of that authenticity and that honesty, it pushes back on the BS. It really does. And it pushes back with a realness that is refreshing. It's refreshing and makes people feel good. It informs people and inspires people. It motivates people because it's the truth. It's your truth. So if you're taking the responsibility of grabbing a mic, whether it be for a podcast or whether you're on terrestrial radio or whatever it may be, you bring the truth and you go high and you keep it right and you keep it positive and you speak from the heart, and you will find your audience and it will grow slowly, little by little. Like minds attract, and people just like you or who might want to be like you will come and they will listen because they need that light. So be that light. And those are my 10 tips. So we're going to take some questions now. I think we have a few more. We're still here on Facebook Live, which is a beautiful thing of Brick Arts Media. We have questions. You had a question here, you said? If you have a question, just raise your hand. And we have Sky. He's got the mic, and he'll be passing the microphone around. And I know we had somebody right here as well.
How do we control the comments? You said control the comments. Can you delete them, or how does that work?
I mean, of course, you can always delete comments. Do you really want to delete comments? It depends on what the type of comment is. You cannot control comments. Once you allow people to be able to make a comment, people can say anything that they want. So that's not something that you can control. You can, block comments. You can always delete people, But I think you want your comments. You definitely want comments. But you've got to have somebody, and this is, well, it's the difficult part, particularly in the world of digital media, because people can comment at any time, and you're sleeping, you wake up, and you're like, what the hell? I've had that happen. I'm like, what is going on? So you have to figure out how you want to do that and how you want to monitor that. You're in this world now. If this is what you want to do, you should be passionate about it. You should be dedicated to it, and you should be on it 24/7.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, we are broadcasting, so you do need the mic. Don't get shy now.
Yeah, I just wanted to know.
Let him ask that, and we'll get to her because she's got
Okay.
a question after. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just wanted to know how, for someone, say someone doesn't know how to start a podcast, could you like just express like certain advice to them, like what's like the links and stuff like that, or how to go about it?
There are different materials that you could get on Amazon for your podcast. It does not have to be expensive, maybe about $150. And all you need is your computer, and you could do it anywhere you want. You can do it from the comfort of your home. It doesn't have to be. The best part is you should definitely educate yourself. You can upload it on SoundCloud. I say before you do that, go and do your research. Check it out and listen to it and decide what you want to do.
Okay.
It's not that hard. It's not that difficult. And it's really not that expensive, depending on how far you want to go. You know, I've read things where it was like $3,000. I'm like, I know people that spent maybe like $150 and that was it. And it wasn't that hard. So it depends on what you want to do and how far you want to go. If that answers your question. Did that answer your question? Okay, good.
I was just trying to find out how.
Is that mic working?
No, it doesn't need
Okay,
to
put
work.
it up to your mouth.
It's fine. It's fine.
Go ahead, put it to your mouth.
Oh, okay. That sounds pause. I was just trying to find out how important are those comments. You know, I'm one of those like unsocial social media people where I'm not really trying to draw attention to myself, but I'm also developing a talk show. Can't talk on the mic, but and today I ran across a something from Baller. Was it? They did a thing on Throwback Thursday on Candy and her mom, and the comments were awful. But I'm like, you can control it on your social media. You can't control it when it's spread on different medias. Does it really affect who you are? I mean, if you already have a following and people like you, does it make a difference? Do you try to control that? Do you try to control what someone's saying about you on your site, on their site, or like, or do you just leave it alone and just live?
Well, it depends on where you are. I mean, you can't control what people say about you. You can't control what people say. You can't control what people think. You can control your outlook and how you feel about it, you know. And, you know, when you decide to get in front of a camera or you decide to get on a microphone, people will become more opinionated. So people are going to feel like they know you. You know, they're going to come up and be like, girl, why you change your hair? I don't like your hair like that. And I'm like, well, did I ask you? Right? So that's where the confidence comes from. As far as the comments, like he said, you can disable comments. You can always do that. Why do you need to disable? You don't need to disable the comments at all. I think comments are great. I think it's always good because one thing that I do, particularly with podcasts, I go and I look at the comments. And I feel like anything that stimulates, that evokes emotion is a good radio host and a good show. If it makes you feel good, if it makes you mad, if it makes you feel something, if it makes people feel enough to go and create an account and type something, that's a good show. Because people are lazy, right? So that's the best way for you to gauge what people are saying. You're like, oh, wow, this made people actually want to write something and have some type of feedback or some type of opinion. That's a good thing. Now, if they're talking about you and how you take it, that's something that you have to deal with yourself because they might. And when you put yourself out there as a talk show host or whatever kind of personality that you want to be, you have to remember that now you're a public persona. And And not everyone is going to like you. Not everyone's going to love you. I say, let's not focus on the negative. Let's focus on the ones. I always say, I'm not here to change anyone's minds. I don't have time to change anyone's minds. I'm here to find like-minded energy. People that hear what I'm saying, people that are feeling me, and people that want to hear more. And they just come to me. I'm not one of those people. I don't reply to trolls. I'm good. I'm like, oh, okay, that's how you feel. Okay, next. I don't care because I have a shield up. It's my force field. Right? So I repel that. I'm out to find like-minded people, and it's like one person, one listener at a time. That's all I can do. And that's all you can do, you know? You're welcome. Do it. Yes.
I had a question, but I think you kind of answered it already. But what I was going to say was, do you feel like people with no communication skills who are hosts are kind of like ruining the radio game? And the reason why I asked that, because I know like podcasts for a fact, I'd rather watch a podcast than listen to it. So when you said the stuff about the 10 minutes, I'm the same way. I will listen for 10 minutes and then say, you know what, when it's released next week or so, or whenever they release it, that's when I watch it. So that's why.
So you'd prefer to watch an hour, 2-hour podcast as opposed to listening?
Definitely.
To a 2-hour podcast, because the visual element of it is more interesting to you. You can see it and this is that, whereas at least listening to it becomes like, what? Yeah, I hear you. I mean, so your question was, are people who can't communicate? Right. We're broadcasting. You have to speak on the mic.
Yeah, one of my favorite podcasts is Drink Champs. It's the #1 music podcast, and it's just unorganized. But I will never listen to it, but I will watch it for 2 hours. So I feel like a lot of that is happening, even in radio. Like,
I mean, in this day and time, particularly like with being able to start a podcast, anybody can start a podcast because it's cheap. You heard me explain to him, it's nothing, right? So not everyone is going to be a great communicator. But unfortunately, we live in a time where it's not about whether you're a great communicator or not. It's how many followers you have. How many people are following, how many people likes, how many people are actually watching. So that really doesn't matter. So it depends on what part you come from. You might be making them a star. You're saying that they are horrible communicators. You know, they need a camera. They need it to be visual. You need to see them. And that's the meaning that works for them. But that's not making their podcast go anywhere, because some people actually like that. So they're might watch them visually, maybe on YouTube. They stream on YouTube, I assume. Yeah. They'll go on to YouTube, and they'll have a whole bunch of followers and people that are watching them on YouTube. But that also translates to their podcast, so it works for them. And the next thing you know, they're attracting advertisers and they've got money. It doesn't matter that they might be crap and you think that they can't communicate. Is it ruining the game? I do think that the world of digital, particularly me, I'm kind of old school with it. I think digital has brought journalism down a bit. I think because the rush to because anybody can do it, you know. I remember when blogging first started, and a lot of my fellow journalists, and we all came from the print game, which is dying right now. But a lot of us still to this day, we're getting better now. We're better now. A lot of us blog. But if you called us a blogger back in the day, we were like, oh hell no, blogger. Bloggers are not journalists. I'm not a blogger. Now we're blogging because we have to keep up, right? But there's still always that issue of, like Denzel was talking about, being the first to put it up. So they're not fact checking. Being the first to do the podcast. So they're not organized. They're just saying whatever, and they're all over the place, and it doesn't make any sense, and they haven't fact checked, but they're talking, and they have their followers. I think it's ruined it in a way where the facts are not there. The quality is diminished, right? But you don't have to be qualified to do a lot of these things. I mean, look at our president, right? I'm just saying. She's laughing at me. I'm just saying. I'm saying make your dreams come true, because you don't need to be qualified. Just use Trump as an inspiration.
I'm being told to stand and ask my question.
Oh, really?
I guess so. I guess I should do that.
Superstar.
All right. But I think that one of the most interesting questions you asked of us is who wants to be in terrestrial and who wants to be in podcasting. And I think that that's an interesting question because I see the entry into broadcast journalism through podcasting. You know, I'm like one of those old school people who like, you know, I worked for Hot 97 back in the day, but I was on the marketing side, but I always wanted to be.
Do we know each other?
I don't know. Possibly.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about that offline. But I was always on the business side because I wanted to be in radio, but what I really wanted to be was a host, right? And so now that podcasting has opened up, it's like this avenue of actually people being able to do their own shows and create their own content. But do you actually see a line between people getting into podcasting and then becoming radio personalities? And also the second part of that question is if you had to do it all over again today, if you were starting today, would you go and try to go directly into terrestrial radio, or would you try to do your own podcast and use that as a way to get into radio?
Excellent question. Excellent. So the first part of that question was, what the first part of it was, do you? Right. Do I see podcasting as an entryway? Absolutely. Yes. I think certain radio programming directors are always looking for talent. You're looking for talent. So I believe that there is talent out there, whether it's a program director at a radio station, whether it's a producer at a TV station. You're seeing a lot of these YouTube stars that are huge. They're like making so much money right now because of their actual following. Some of them are actually really talented, you know. Issa Rae, let's talk about it. Golden Globe winner, Golden Globe nominated. Maybe I'm calling it. Maybe I'm psychic. You understand what I'm saying? So yes, there is talent, and I do definitely see that there is a line. I think if they're professional enough and they've got their package and they have the right contacts and they can get it to the right person, they can say, "Look at all my followers. Look at this, and I can bring this to your station." Absolutely, there's a line. You asked me if I could do it again, if I would do it. You know, I've been doing radio. Man, when I was in college, I'm about to age myself. Woo! So I started college radio at Hampton, yes, in 1995, 94, 95, the Wu-Tang era. Oh, yeah, Black Don't Crack. Hey. Yeah, that's when I started. I went to school with DJ Envy. Yes, I did. And he was the popular DJ then. He still is now. He's just blown up. I probably would have back then. I think the disadvantage that you can have when you start at terrestrial radio, it can make you feel like, I don't want to do that. I'm on FM radio. I'm in New York. But what I think a lot of us are starting to realize now, because a lot of us are switching over to digital. I have an ebook with Simon & Schuster. That's what my deal was. I got it because of my social media movement, right? So I like to say it's popping our digital cherries. And it's forcing us to have to get out of our boxes and to use digital and promote ourselves. So that just might mean creating a podcast and being on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, and WordPress, and LinkedIn. I mean, the list goes on. But you have to in this day and time, right? Because if you don't, then people will look at you, particularly when you're looking for a job, and they'll say, "Oh, well, you don't have a presence. Where's your online presence?" And branding and promotion and whole marketing of it, it goes hand in hand with you wanting to be any type of personality, radio personality, a TV personality. You have got to be out there. So if I knew now, knew then what I know now, yeah. But it's never too late. It's never too late because the technology is changing and the world is changing, and now's the time. And particularly with what's happening in the world, we need as many voices out there as possible. That's your way to push back on what you might disagree with in the world, is to speak about it. Pick up a mic and talk on the mic. Pick up a camera and record yourself. Pick up a pen, pick up your laptop and write about it. That's all a form of activism. It's a form of protesting. It's a form of just pushing back and bringing something different into the world that opposes what's out there that you don't like. That's your responsibility. Any other questions?
Hi. Hi. My name is. I've been in radio for a minute. You know, back in the days, I'm one of the pioneers that took it out the streets and brought it into the club.
Okay.
Hanging out with Von Harper and all of them. They brought me up in the game. Like, I wanted to talk about the adversity artists. You know, the one that bring the drama. You know, thinking that that's the way to go. Do you feel that the artists that bring up negative energy on the radio, expressing themselves, is the way to go, or is it keep it real, like Denzel was saying? Because you mentioned that a lot about keeping it real. A lot of people, especially in the industry, they will bring up a topic that's not even true. That's to get that play and get everybody talking about them. So could you elaborate about people like that on the radio?
I mean, I think there's different audiences for different people. I think there are some audiences that do gravitate toward the negativity, that they do like watching Fighting World Star. People love that. They're like, ooh, you see the fight on that train? Ooh. I'm not into that, but I'm not going to knock somebody that is. There's an audience for everyone. People wake up and they want to be more positive in their own time. I do prefer the positivity. I do prefer upliftment, but that's where I'm at in this point in my life. And that's my audience, you know. Do I wish, because I know that young people and kids and my son's friends are listening to these types of things and they're being influenced, does it bother me? Absolutely, it bothers me. But I can't say that I want the radio or what's on TV to raise my child. I have to make sure that I've instilled enough positivity and empowered him enough in his subconscious so that when he hears that, he questions it and it blocks him and it doesn't affect him in a way. And that's where parenting comes in, right? So I can wish that certain people would say the right thing all of the time, right? But everybody has their audience. People are going to do what they want to do. And if it works, and sometimes those ratings work, they're going to do more of it. So you could be mad about it, and sometimes people get ratings that way. A lot of people will get ratings simply because based off haters. People will listen like, I hate them, but then why are you listening? Let me turn them on. I hate them. Cannot stand this show. Turn that up. What? It makes no sense. You know, so I can't always knock it, even though, you know, you and I may not understand it. We have more questions over here.
Yeah, just real quick, you know, you were talking about, you know, just basically honesty and being honest on the air. And I guess one of the major genres I definitely see where rumors get out of hand very quickly is obviously in the sports media, you know, side of things. Because, I mean, it could be just some guy in a basement somewhere doing a podcast, and they'll send the rumor out there about somebody being traded or whatever it might be. And a lot of hosts are really quick to just jump on that information and just put it out there without really checking any facts, sources, anything. And the next thing you know, it's become the big story of the day. Meanwhile, there's really no, you know, substance behind it, you know. And you see a lot of that, I notice, like nowadays in, you know, in this world. So, you know, especially in the sports media world.
Yeah, I definitely see that. But that's what we've been talking about. It seems like to be almost the, I guess one of the themes for the day is just, you know, that's the world that we're in. You know, because the media, the technology is so fast, so people get things. But because people want to be the first on a story, they'll just put it up. Oh, without even checking it and calling your sources, maybe calling the manager, calling the publicist, calling the agent and finding out and seeing if they actually have a statement on it. You know, even I would say the responsible thing to do is, okay, if you have this rumor or what you heard, at least have done the work of calling the publicist, the agent. You can get this information. It's not hard to find and say, hi, you know, we have this information and such has been traded to such and such. What's your response to that? What do you think? And they're going to say that's not true or no comment. And then you can say that. We attempted to find out, but they said no comment. Because at least you tried to find the truth, but a lot of people, there's a lot of laziness in the world right now. A lot of laziness. Yeah. Yes.
Tina Panariello. I listened very carefully when you said that everything that's put out there is analytical. Never realized it, but I just want to say that I did a show through Skype out of Nashua, New Hampshire. Not realizing it, I just got the stats the other day. The show goes to 4 million households throughout the nation, and one of them is my show.
Go, girl.
So I had no idea how important stats are. It hit Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 45,000. It hit another place, 550,000 households. So coming here and listening to you made me realize how important you have to know how far you reach. And through the radio shows that I've done in the past year, which have been 26 of them, out of New York, out of the South, have reached across the country and in Europe. And I had no idea how important it was. So I just want to say I am so grateful I came to you to hear you say how important it is. So I just wanted to say it here, that not knowing what I was doing and just did it, because that's what I say on my card, I just did it. By doing it, that's what's happened. So we can all grow by learning from what you just said.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I also think that sometimes we can be a little scared to look at our analytics, right? Because then we have to look at the truth of who's listening. And we're scared. Nobody might not listen. Oh, God, I have no followers. I suck. But you have to know. You just have to. And a lot of times I think you're going to be surprised. You're like, whoa. I remember I went and checked the analytics. I have the website for my book, themancurse.com. So I said, let's check the analytics. And there were people from all over the world checking my website. I'm like, Saudi Arabia? I don't know anybody in Saudi Arabia. France and England and all these. And it makes you feel better. And you're like, okay, I can do this. Because sometimes when you're behind the mic, it could be a really lonely place. At least in the radio studio, you have the phones and you can see the phones lighting up. So you say, okay, call me for those tickets, and the phones will blow up and you're like, oh, yay, people are listening, But it could be different in a different world, in the podcast world, and you don't have that. So you don't really know. It can be blind and it can be a very lonely place. So the only way that you can actually break out of feeling that loneliness, or I think some people will drop their shows because it's an insecurity. They'll be like, no one's listening anyway. You'd be surprised. So check your analytics. Just be brave.
So I think we have time for one more question.
Good evening, everyone. Me and my partner here just started our podcast last week. He Got No Game. And we were not expecting to have so many people actually just start following us. All of our friends started supporting. And what advice would you give to us? Because it's a free-formed show. We're talking about dating mainly. We have different walks. Some are parents. One is a mom. One is with a high school sweetheart. We're single, but he's dating. I'm dating. It's very messy, very funny, very uncandid. We're just having a regular conversation. So in terms of structure and stuff, I'm kind of scared that we might lose that authenticity that we were talking about. So what advice would you give to us in how to gauge our analytics if we have so many people from different markets? Because I know I probably attract the Black Power, Black Empowerment, and young professional, and he's a civil and Muay Thai specialist.
Looking at you like, I'm a what?
Yeah, how do you find that audience through that analytics, and how do you try to add structure to a free-formed show that is doing pretty well? That's what people like about it. Right. So
there are different analytical sites online. I will say I'm not as familiar as all of them. I like Tweet Reach. I can find out. Yeah, it's I subscribe to that from time to time. The more money that you pay, the more that these analytical sites will actually give you the information that you need. Right, exactly. You don't always need to do that, but it's something that's important. You have to figure it out. Where do you broadcast? Are you on SoundCloud? Or are you on? Mm-hmm. What? I'm gonna listen to y'all. What's the name of y'all show? Okay. Okay. Wow. Okay. Right. Right. And are people commenting and nice. Good. So you have a page and you have your Twitter and you have your website and the whole nine. Well, through your website, whoever your host is, you should be able to check the analytics on your website, right? Yeah, with your host. You should be able to do that. You should be able to check the analytics on Twitter. Tweet Reach is just one of the many that will be able to show you that. And that's what you want to do. It's important to know because then it'll tell you where they're coming from, you know, and who you're at. And you need those analytics, particularly if you're working to get advertisers. How are you going to get money if you can't show them how many clicks and how many impressions that you have? Yes. You don't have music breaks, but you have different topics that you're talking about, right? So you want to write it down. You want to structure it. Okay. How long is your show? 25? 45 minutes. So you're going to say, okay, from I'm just going to say from 7 p.m. to 7:05. This is our intro. We're just going to talk about this, and we're going to introduce the show. You know, from 7:05 to 7:10, you know, we're going to talk about this. From 7:10 to 7:20, you know, we're going to read some of those comments that we have online and different things. You know, you can take these ideas for free. I won't charge you yet. I won't charge you today. You understand what I'm saying? Write it down. There's a lot of different things. I mean, 45 minutes. You got a lot of time. Little 5-minute segments. Maybe you have a special contest segment. Maybe you have special things. But if you write it down, then you all both can look at it and say, okay, this is cool. You can play. You can edit it. You can move some things around. And then it helps focus you. Then you won't feel so, right, all over the place. All right? Yeah, good luck with that.
So, thank you so much, Raqiyah. Let's give her a round of applause. It's awesome. It's really really inspiring, and I would suggest that we continue the conversation on Facebook. We've recorded this on Facebook Live. Check it out on the Be Free BK Facebook page. So thank you again. Last thing I want to say is I have these really wonderful cards advertising the man curse. I'd like to hand those out. And 5 lucky winners will get a free digital download of the book. So thank you again. Thank you so much. All right, and have a great night, guys.
And also, where's that notebook? I would love to get everyone's email here. Where's that notebook at? Good. If you haven't gotten a chance, has everybody added their email and their name to that? Beautiful, because I'll have more workshops coming up in 2017. I would love to invite you all. And there are also some shows coming up. Possibly another a podcast or something coming up, and I would love to have my audience of 25, 30 at least. I would know that they're there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Get home safe. Bye.